Hi, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Bree.
We're the PR team
Behind the Theatre Downstream.
For our 6th season. We wanted to get to know the people behind the characters. We wanted to get real. This week, we sat down with Brandon Rose, who plays John Brooke in Little Women. The conversation with Brandon was both humorous and thought-provoking, as he shared his feelings on why theater is so important, and what he wishes he could change about the public's perception of theater. Brandon spoke openly and honestly about his life as a youth minister, including detailing both his most embarrassing moment and one of his hardest moments. He also gave us a beautiful answer to what new beginning he is most looking forward to. Brandon is a thoughtful, kind soul, and we hope you enjoy our conversation. Welcome to Getting Real.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Can you tell us what your name is and what your role is in Little Women?
My name is Brandon Rose, and my role, I play John, I forgot his last name now.
Brooke.
Brooke, thank you.
What is your day job and how long have you been there?
I am a student minister at Fost Community Church in Oldham County, Kentucky. I've been there for 3 years, but I've been doing student ministry work since I was 20, so I guess 17 years now.
Tell me what student ministry is specifically.
So working with teenagers, or a long time you call them teens or teenagers, they call them youth ministry. So student ministry, basically the moment they hit 6th grade all the way through 12th grade, and even sometimes after, if you've got a church that has a lot of college students, we kind of find a way to rope them in, but put them in a separate sphere so that we can have more adult conversations about where they are in life and what they're doing. So yeah, teenager students all the way through 6th to 12th grade.
So tell me what is a job description for that?
Well, I work with the rest of the staff to do general church work, hospital visits, that sort of stuff. I plan events for teenagers like going to camp in the summer, spiritual retreats during the fall, winter. I do 2 things a week. We have small groups on Wednesday nights separate for the girls and the guys. And then on Sunday, we have a bigger worship service for our students at night, cook a meal for them, a little hangout time. We play 9 square and gaga ball, and I teach for a while, something usually based on scripture or whatever, and then we break into groups and kind of discuss what we talked about, a little worship. So I'm really kind of over all that, and then just some general stuff. I help lead worship on Sundays, and other than that, just general overall things.
So what's your favorite part of your job?
Definitely the administration. I love being organized. No,
Yeah.
That's not true. That's a lie. That's the worst part of the job. The best part of the job is just getting to talk with a student, and this sounds weird, but like when they're going through something difficult or hard, being there to offer them some sound counsel, to be a
Feeling
friend
like
of them.
you're making a difference?
Yeah, helping them walk through something difficult
Yeah.
and seeing them come out on the other side and being okay. Recognizing that whatever they're going through, it can get better.
Yeah.
And it will get better in time. So yeah, that's really, I think, the best part of the job.
That would be. Do you have a funny or moving work story that you want to share?
Plenty of funny ones. Let's see. So the last church I served at a couple years ago, we were doing worship, and that church had like a big choir and all that kind of stuff. And so one Sunday they were going to do this song called "Soul on Fire" by Mac Powell, and but they wanted to do an a cappella version, but it had a track to an a cappella song, which if people don't know, a cappella is where there's no music. And so, the track they had with it had like a percussion beat thing. And so we're going to do that. We practiced a few times. It went fine. And I was doing the main part while the choir jumped in and did the kind of backup choir stuff. Whatever. So we got up there to do the song at worship, and there was like 400, 500, 600 people. Nobody played a starting note to start the song, so you know what pitch to come on, what key.
Oh, no.
Right? So the basses come in, and I'm supposed to get my note from them, but they don't really come in because they're afraid, because all basses are afraid, I think, inherently. And I started singing the song, and immediately I knew something was wrong.
Oh, no.
That something was terribly wrong, and we're singing, and everything just sounds a little sour. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like when it's just really bad.
Yeah.
We got to the end of the song, and there's some like backup choral voices, but they were singing in the right key, the backup voices on the track, and we were all a half step lower. And so all of those, the right key and the wrong key, came together suddenly, clashingly, like a car accident. And it was that. It was truly awful. I can't begin to tell you how awful it sounded. And then, because I was so awkward and embarrassed, I slowly started to back up and walk. I'm heading off stage, and there was like a fake potted plant there, and I knocked it over.
No!
And then I picked up the plant, set it there. Everyone's just awkwardly looking in the
You
congregation.
didn't get any kind of golf
No,
clapping?
There was no clapping. There was nothing. Everyone just painfully, awkwardly waited until I left the stage.
No.
And that was, that was the worst thing ever.
It is the worst thing ever.
Needless to say, I've never, ever, ever sang that song again. Never, ever will. Nothing against Mac Powell. You're the best man, but no, that's terrible. So.
That's a hard no.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that's great.
That is mortifying. Okay, I'll tell my embarrassing theater story. I guess theater is sort of like my career, so it doesn't compare to yours. But I was at an intermission one time at another theater, and their stage is really, really short. It's only like 2 inches tall. So there's a lip, and some people trip over that lip. Okay, so I wore a skirt, and I was facing someone else, and it was the intermission, so I was talking to someone else, and there were still people sitting in the auditorium or whatnot.
Right.
And this elderly lady came up behind me, and she tripped, and she grabbed the first thing that she could, which was my skirt.
Oh, no.
The waistband of my skirt, and as she fell, she pulled my skirt with her. So I didn't even know what was happening. I just went down with her. I was like, nope, no, this is not happening. And I fell with this poor lady because I didn't want my skirt to be pulled down.
Wow.
That was very embarrassing.
Yeah. Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we're in good...
Gravity always wins.
Yeah, and everybody's just looking like, what just happened?
No one really knows. I really wish people would just laugh. It would actually be easier. The laughter is easier than the complete dead silence. Like it, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what do you feel like is... Okay, you tell people I'm in ministry for my job.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is something that is misunderstood about being in ministry? Or do you think anything is?
Well, that's a big question. Youth ministry or student ministry, the big misunderstanding almost always is one of a couple things. Either A, you just hang out with the teenagers and play around and play games or
Sure.
order pizza.
Yeah.
We do order a lot of pizza, but that is not, whatever, that's not the job. The other thing is, well, you only work on Sundays or Wednesdays, and the other 5 days of the week you don't do anything. You sit home and lazy. That's not accurate at either. And then the big one, and this is usually from people who are not believers, who don't know God or things like that, or antagonistic towards the church, they would say that you're there, you're brainwashing people.
Oh.
You're hateful, you're a bigot, or anything like that. And that's not the case. Like, I don't think that that's anything about Christianity or who God is. I don't think God is hate. Very much God is love. And so I think helping people understand that. And probably the other biggest thing is that a lot in the Christian circle, it's like, well, for parents, I'm going to drop my kids off at youth group, and you're going to teach them how to be spiritual and love Jesus for these 2 hours. And then the other 6 days of the week, we're going to focus on sports and academics and put nothing, like they think it's my job to get them to that point. I can't do that in 2 hours once a week. Like this, it's just not possible. The goal is to partner with parents, not to be a babysitter service. So yeah, I think that's probably the big misconceptions of it. Yeah.
Well, tell me what you wanted to be growing up. Did you always want to do this?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, I like theater. I've always wanted to do this. I think I've been singing since I was in 4th or 5th grade, and I enjoy, I don't know, there's something really interesting and cool being able to put on a different persona or a face. This is so dorky. I wanted to be a principal of an elementary school.
That's cool, though.
Yeah, but that's no one wants to do that, actually. My wife teaches 1st grade. She doesn't want to be the principal. She's like, nobody wants that job.
Why specifically elementary school, do you think?
I liked elementary school.
Yeah?
I loved school then. It was the last time I loved school, but I loved it in elementary school. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And then I wanted to be a teacher, and then I wanted to be a scientist, and then I wanted to be anything that was cool, which I was not. And
Right, I feel that.
Yeah. And then eventually, at one point, I wanted to actually be a professional vocalist, go to be an opera singer, that sort of
Ooh,
stuff.
can you sing opera?
I have sang in opera. Yes, I
Neat.
can do it. I'm not great at it, but I can do it. So that's why I didn't become an opera singer, because I found out that I'm good, not great. And there is a stark difference between good and great. So.
Tell me a little bit about your family.
Let's see. My wife's name is Lisa Rose. Originally I was from Richmond, Kentucky. She was from Somerset, and we met in college. We both went to Eastern Kentucky University. Go Colonels. I don't know why I say go Colonels. We don't win anything. But it's a great school.
You're rooting for them someday.
One day
You're going to get it, guys.
They're going to win something. We met in college. She's a school teacher at Campbellsburg Elementary. She took a job, her first job out of college was an opening at Campbellsburg Elementary, and she said, I'm just going to stay 1 year. And then, 12 years later, here we are. We got married after I finished a job in Richmond at a campus minister working with college students. And we got married, and I moved up here with her because there's a couple seminaries in Louisville I wanted to go to. And so here we are. I have one brother. He's 20. He just turned 28 yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. You're awesome. We're about 9.5 years apart. And
oh, wow.
He's a lot like me, a little more country fried, and a little quieter, not quite as, just not as loud as I am. That's my family. My mom lives in Lexington, and my father actually passed away this past summer, so that was kind of tough. But anyway, so that's my immediate
That's your
family.
rundown.
Yeah.
What is something that people may not know about you?
I'm basically blind. I wear contact lenses or glasses, but yeah, I can't see without them. Like literally, like my prescription's like +8 in one eye and +9 in the other. So
Wait, plus, so that means you're farsighted?
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's really
I guess
bad.
anything else that's like whatever. Most people know I'm a huge nerd. I love Star Wars and Star Trek, and they're different, and I love them both, and there's nothing wrong with that. People that hate Star Wars, people that hate Star Trek, and vice versa. It's one, you can love them both. Godzilla and Marvel and DC and anything, Narnia, anything that's really nerdy, that's pretty much me. Harry Potter, my wife and I both have 6 wands because we're complete geeks. It's great. So, yeah, those are my things.
Okay, let's transition into some theater basics.
Yeah.
So what is your acting origin story?
Well, really, my acting origin story beyond like high school was, I think in 4th grade, I starred in some play about the seasons or something about the rain and the snow and the sun. I was Mr. Bluebird, and I was married to Mrs. Bluebird, and I kind of like narrated the play, whatever. And so that was my beginning acting story.
You were hooked?
It was great. I loved being Mr. Bluebird. It's great. That's right.
Those and everything.
Yeah, that was everything. That's my favorite. I want to go back. No. But
Elementary school, Mr. Bluebird, peak of existence.
Peak, man. I peaked out right there at 4th grade. And then I didn't do anything with theater for a while, really, until my sophomore year of high school, and then I jumped back in and started doing some stuff, and we didn't do like really real edgy plays. We did things like Miracle on 34th Street and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, that sort of stuff, and they were a lot of fun. I love that stuff. It was great.
Do you have a dream show or a dream role?
Well, I'm too old now, obviously. I'm 37. I would love to go back and do Edmund again in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh.
That's a great role. My gosh. Edmund is a great character.
He really is.
Or now as an adult, and I don't know what role I'd do, I would love to do Into the Woods.
Yeah?
It's just a phenomenal show.
You'd be good as Jack.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you'd be really good.
It's a great show, man.
Do you have a method for memorizing lines?
Kind of how when I'm preparing to like preach or whatever, I basically just look at it and I take a small chunk at a time, and I pace back and forth and I say them to myself over and over again, just the repetition, and it sticks. I'm usually pretty good about memorizing.
How long does it take you to memorize? Not long?
Not long.
I would think you would be very in practice because of preaching and having to memorize quickly.
It doesn't take a long time, really, honestly, which is good because I'm a terrible procrastinator, so I usually wait till last. For instance, we're supposed to be off book Tuesday, and
Guess what?
guess what? Not there yet. So,
But you will be.
yeah, let's hope.
Do you have anybody you look up to as an actor or director, writer, etc.?
I don't know, like, it's hard to say, like, look up to. There are a lot of people that I admire. Ewan McGregor, I think, is a prolific actor.
He is.
What is that? I can't think of his name now. He's been in a billion things, and you never can tell that he's in
Gary
a film.
Oldman?
Gosh, Gary Oldman has been in 1,000 roles.
Is that who you're thinking
yes.
of?
Oh my gosh. He
That's
has to be one of the greatest guys ever.
That's exactly what I think about him. Like, you never recognize him.
No,
Never.
He can blend into any role, and you wouldn't even know he's in the film.
Yep.
I just recently found out, and this is a really kind of morbid movie, but the movie Hannibal, there was a guy that he's kind of the villain of the movie beyond Hannibal Lecter, and he played the dude that's all disfigured in the movie, and he asked to not be billed because you can't recognize him, but he's in that movie, like he's in every movie.
He's amazing.
He really is. He's so good.
He's amazing.
And then of course, my dudes from Lord of the Rings, Ian McKellen and Christopher Lee, like those guys, like, man, I want to be a wizard wizard one day. Long, blustery beard, and just like, it's just, those guys are great. They're awesome.
Do you suffer from stage nerves? And if you do, how do you combat them?
Oh, heck yeah, I do.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah, it's bad. And that's not just like in the acting world, but even in the ministry world.
I was going to say, is it different acting versus...
It's a little different.
Okay.
It's not the same thing,
Because
certainly.
you're yourself when you're in ministry.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put on airs or be something or produce or perform something. It's more like a conversation. Acting's a little different, but there's something similar to getting in front of people and acting, preaching, whatever you want to call it, like any of those things. You're bearing your soul. Like you're getting in front of people and saying this, like even if you're got a full costume on, an accent, and your face is whatever, like you're still bearing yourself in front of people and saying, this is who I am. There's a real vulnerability to it. Yeah. And that's terrifying, to be that open and honest with people, to say, look at me, and you're trying to give them something, either a good laugh, a good cry, a thoughtful whatever. You're trying to give them something, not just to entertain them, but to like bring them to a place where they think and they feel and they're in another world. And so there's an intimacy to it that is really frightening in some ways. And so like if I mess up, then they're not going to laugh, or they're not going to cry, or they're not going to enjoy it, and they feel cheated. And you don't want that. You want people to be transported to another place to where that maybe they can forget whatever's happening in their life and enjoy this moment. Or the other way, it brings them to a moment where they're thinking and processing about something in their life, and it helps them process even more. And so like I think of like theater, it does that. And so it's terribly complex and scary in some ways. Like, and so yeah, I would say I have sometimes really bad nerves. Oh yeah.
So what do you do to try to combat that?
I pace a lot.
Yeah.
My wife, there's like a worn down part in there of our house. So I'm just walking back and forth where and it's not that bad. Like
so okay, that's at home, but what do you do right before you go on if you've got the stage nerves? You pace backstage to get the nervous energy out?
Oh yeah. I walk and I pace, and I just try to talk to people. Like from me, if I need to calm down or I need to get in a place, like I would rather be talking to someone. It's when I'm quiet and when I'm by myself, that's a bad place to be. So if I ever get to that point, that's not good. But yeah, just having a conversation with people, what helps me just to get my nerves down and to be settled in a place. Yeah. And that's not with everything. Some things are easier than others. Like my role in The Sound of Music was really not a complicated role.
But I was just going to talk about that. I was trying to figure out a way to segue into that, because one of the things I really loved about that role, even though it wasn't that complicated, your facial expressions said everything. The lines that you had were very basic lines, but the way you delivered them and the rolling of the eyes, or just the way you looked at people, was so funny.
Yeah, so Franz, well, my wife basically said, that's basically you in real life. You're annoyed by everything all the time. I just got to channel my inner diva and just be annoyed by people, and that was great.
The eye rolls were just very intense.
Well, I felt like the whole play, a great part of the musical, I was playing, not really playing opposite of, but like reacting a lot to John Trueblood's character, Max Detweiler. And so he's so big and boisterous and just beyond the fact that he's an incredible actor, but like his character, the character himself, was just larger than life and everywhere, just oozing everywhere with just all of the frilliness of it. And so my character, who's not any of that, like I just felt like I was constantly reacting to the fact that he was taking up all the room in the house.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it was really easy to be annoyed at him, but not in real life, just in the play.
Just in the play. It was really good. So is that something that you maybe find the most enjoyable about acting, is this ability to just kind of choose what your character's going to be and just go for it?
Yeah, like that, and just the challenge of being somebody else. Maybe the most enjoyable thing, like growing up, I don't think that I had not a great amount of self-confidence or self-worth, esteem, whatever you want to call it. And I still deal with those things quite a bit. People think when you grow up, you're going to become an adult and you get past all of those issues of like your childhood, like, oh, now you're an adult and you can handle life and everything. That's not true. Like we carry a lot of the things that we deal with well into our adult years. And so for me, the enjoyable part is being able to be in someone else's body, their soul, their character, their shoes, whatever, and the challenge of getting to be someone else other than myself and letting my own self-worth issues and putting all that aside to be somebody else for a moment is really cool. And just yeah, I think the challenge of that is really cool. I enjoyed that a lot.
Why would you say that theater is important?
Really, for kind of some of the things I said earlier. One, I think for people who can't find it, our culture is very driven by athletics and academics. They're great things, but it's very driven by those things. And so I think the arts and theater kind of at times gets shunted to the side quite a bit. And I think for a lot of people, it can give them something to aspire to. It can give them something to find confidence in, to find who they are, to find worth in. So on one level, I think that theater is really important for that. It gives people a world of people and places to be. And the other thing I think is just what it does for people that come to watch theater, come to watch a play or a show or a movie or whatever you want to call it. It transports people to another world and allows them to find the thrill or the defeat or the hope or the heart or the sorrow of whatever is in that show. It transports them somewhere new and maybe in some ways helps them deal with whatever may or may not be happening in their own life.
Well, if you could wave a magic wand and change any one thing about the theater industry, would you change anything?
I wish theater was more accessible to people.
In what way?
Well, I wish there were more opportunities for legitimate local theater or theater in general. Like our culture is very driven towards athletics or academics and to the screen, the TV, and then there's some theater in television shows and movies. Certainly there's something to that as well, but live theater, I wish that our culture would not forget about it. Because I think there is something unique and different and special
Magical.
about. Oh yeah, it really is magical, and so I wish that it was more accessible to people, or there was more of an emphasis for people to do it, more opportunities.
So you're saying like you wish more people would come, accessible in that way?
Yeah, or that people knew about it, or that there were more like the Theatre Downstream. Like, I mean, I would never have imagined this would be in Henry County, and the fact that it's here is like a jewel. It's really cool that something like this exists for this community, and I feel like in a lot, like, I mean, I know that there was maybe some theater things when I was in my hometown of Richmond, but I never knew about any of it. No,
yeah,
it
that's
wasn't.
the one thing we struggle with. I don't know how else we can get the word out. You know,
Right? Yeah.
there's only so much we can do, and even now we still have people say, "Oh, I didn't know there was a theater here." And it's like I don't know what else we can do to say it. It's been in the paper. You do the Facebook ads. You do the sharing, and I don't know.
I think the way I think about it, it's not. I don't know there's much that theater can do about it. I think
Yeah.
I wish magic wand. I wish that we could wave back time 30, 40, 50 years and not lose track of things like theater
Yeah.
to other things that have taken its place, I think, in some ways. So, yeah. And I don't think that it is still very accessible. I just wish that there was more of an emphasis in our culture than what is currently. So,
Well, let's go to some Little Women specific questions. Why did you want to be a part of this production?
a couple of reasons. A real basic one is that I can't really do... The Theatre Downstream kind of has like 3 shows a year, 3 or 4 a year, and they come in like in block seasons.
Yeah.
Fall and kind of winter, spring, and then we have the summer. I can't do anything during the summer because of my work schedule. Just I won't have the time at all.
Gotcha.
And so if I'm going to do anything with it, it has to be either or the fall and the winter season. So that's one reason why I went for it, was because this is my schedule is going to get busier going into March and April and May and on forward, and so this is my last opportunity to do anything for a while.
Gotcha.
So that's a big reason why I auditioned. Beyond that, though, it's a great play, and I'd forgotten. I read the book in college. My background, my degree is in English literature.
Okay.
And so I read the original Little Women. It's a great story, and I'd forgotten a great deal of it. And it's a beautifully funny, oh my gosh, the cast, you'll all be so excited to see it. It's so funny and so wonderful and alive. And the girls that are playing, the 4 March girls, they're just terrific. Everyone's terrific, but my goodness, their chemistry really is. It's sisters. It's great.
That's good.
But-
There's actually 5 of them, though, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do see Amy, younger version and older version, although they sometimes call them Little Amy and Big Amy, in which case I always remind people, no woman ever wants to be called Big Amy.
Or Old Amy.
Yeah, nobody wants Old Amy either. Like, let's not
So
say that.
We'll just say Amy and Young Amy.
That's right, yeah.
That's how we'll differentiate.
Yes, right.
Nobody wants to be Big Old Amy.
Yeah, no, nobody wants that. No. But it's a great show, and it's super moving and emotional
Yeah.
to watch these people grow up. And I think that was probably the big reason why I wanted to audition for it, was that I wanted to be a part of something that was really some some serious like theater acting chop kind of stuff, and that would really bring people, move people.
What do you think is the most intimidating part of bringing this classic story to the stage?
The timing of it, the time period is challenging. Like, it's set during the Civil War era,
Right.
and so not even in just the word languages, the words we use, but how we speak,
Right.
has changed so much, and trying not to deliver the lines the way a person from the 21st century would deliver a line,
Right.
is really challenging. My character in particular, he is very formal. Like, we don't act or live or speak or move or emote the way they did during the Civil War era.
Right. Like, it's one of the directions that I would imagine is for the girls not to be too modern. You know, don't deliver things. We did that in The Sound of Music a lot. Like, don't get too modern. Don't say it in a modern way. Don't do the head.
And that's really tough to not be overly modern. So you have to, not only, you're not just memorizing lines or now act happy, now act sad. You're having to think, how would have a person 1860 or whatever think or respond to this moment? John's character, my role of John, he's very, to me, very formal, and he's very, the way that he goes about courting Meg feels very stiff and formal and awkward to me, and to Meg for that matter. We both laugh about that. Both our characters are super, super awkward because they're very stiff characters. They're very formal characters. Because it would have been like that. Courting and going on these strange dates and
never really being alone.
Not at all. And so they feel awkward. It's like being middle schoolers in adult bodies. Like, it's...
Oh, that's a good way to describe it.
It's very much like that. Very not sure of how to be together as people. And so, not being too modern is really challenging, I think.
How do you think that, this is just a random question if you don't want to answer it, but how do you think that they would know that this is a person they would want to be with? If it was so formal all the time, what would you base, like, I'm in love with her, but how would you know? Do you ever think about that?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I think that obviously...
Does he just look at her character and go, I love your character and I would like to...
I think so. These are what I would call very good people. The March family are kind to considerate. Meg is the oldest, and while she's not really the head of the girls, that's more Joe's character, Meg is the one that's most like her mother, Marmee. And
the most
so
responsible.
She's very responsible and very cool, calm, and collected, doing the right thing all the time. And so, and John's a tutor and is somewhat educated. And aside from what we would think about the cultural values of the time, like the human emotion and the human equation of it, that we find love and we are attracted to someone, I think transcends what we would call culturally. Love finds a way, one way or the other, regardless of trappings or societal beliefs or differences. Love will almost always find a way.
That's like Dr. Ian Malcolm. Life finds a way, love finds a way.
Life and love always find a way.
Yes.
It just does, yeah.
And so does Henry.
Yeah.
Henry had something to say.
He did. He's like...
Baby
He
kitty.
agrees.
Yes.
All right.
Baby kitty.
So what do you love about John Brooke, and what's the easiest or hardest part to identify with?
What I love about him, I think, was I was really surprised by him. I auditioned for Professor Bear, and I really thought that was the only role I could do. He's supposed to be in his 30s. I'm 37. John Brooke is actually, like, I think in the casting is like around his mid-20s, and I thought, well, I definitely don't look 20.
I think you do.
Bless you. Thank you.
I did not know you were 37.
It's awful that I'm getting older.
Hey, I'm 39.
You got it. You understand.
I do.
I didn't think that about auditioning for him at all. I thought I was really too old for that role. So we were at the audition, and they had me read for John Brooke's character a couple times on stage while the other people were kind of playing opposite of him. And as I read for the character, I thought, I really like this guy. He's earnest, and he's intelligent, and he's well-meaning, and he's just very kind.
Yeah.
To me, I felt that as I was reading for him, and as I went through the rest of the play, like, he's really a very good guy. He just wants somebody to love, and he wants to be loved. And I
like that descriptor, earnest.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good descriptor for him.
Yeah, I just think that
And he wants to do the right thing.
he's a little bit of a hopeless romantic and wants to do the right thing, and that's a different role. I've never done a role like that before, and so...
Have you ever been paired romantically on stage with someone? Mrs. Bluebird.
Mrs. Bluebird. Yeah, my first sweetie way back in 4th grade. Wow, there it is. It comes back full circle.
It does.
It really does. No, I don't think so. Like, in high school, most of my roles were Linus, and I was Kris Kringle in Miracle on 34th Street, and like, no, I've always, I don't know what kind of role I would say I've always played, but definitely not the romantic guy at all. And so, yeah, that was different. Like,
How does that feel?
It was just weird.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I love the role. I love John. But again, Peyton, who plays Meg, we both laugh. They're so awkward.
They are. It's very sweet.
Like, watching the actors that play Joe and Laurie, there's a real ease to their romance, not romance. I feel like they get to be themselves, and they get to just be humans that are goofy and struggling to figure out whether they like each other. But Meg and John do like each other, but I think that they are trapped in this cultural bubble that they have to do it the right way. They're really awkward. But I do like when his later scene when they really start moving closer to each other.
Has it felt awkward for you? Peyton is 18, correct?
Yep.
Has it felt awkward being 37, acting opposite an 18-year-old?
Yeah, we pretty much laugh about it pretty much every rehearsal.
Yeah.
It's always everyone's giggling and laughing about it. It's the most giggly cast I've ever been on in my entire life. It's like watching a real life version of the Gilmore Girls.
But they're teenage girls.
It's really funny.
They're very teenage girls.
It's super giggly.
I have this saying that there's nothing new under the sun. Well, it's not my saying, it's the Bible saying. But I believe in the Bible saying there's nothing new. I think teenage girls were teenage girls since the dawn of time.
And they just giggle, and that's just part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say like the if there was an awkward part of it, which we've mostly dealt with, I think, and it probably is because in my real life, being a youth minister and working with students and trying to be very careful about your relationship with them. And then in this role, I'm supposed to be falling in love with like a 17, 18-year-old, like, and that's what it would have been like then anyway.
Yes.
Women got married much younger.
And men were usually older and established.
Exactly. And so it's that's normal. And again, that's another part of not being too modern. Being okay with the fact and living that out on a play or on a stage is challenging, definitely. It's not too awkward, but just,
just a touch. Just enough.
Occasionally.
Just enough.
My one directing thing that Jill always reminds me is, don't be a creep.
That's funny. How do you think our version of the production is going to be different than others?
Well, one, I think a major difference is I think a lot of theaters, for the sake of time or whatever you want to call it, I think they would have probably cut the play down. I think they would have edited it to make it more palatable to our very, very, very shortest attention span as people. And we're not doing that. It's the whole thing.
Yep.
And I love that. I love that we're not apologizing for the fact that it might be a little long.
But the stuff that they suggest cutting, I felt was such character developing scenes.
I think that to cut it down, it feels like it all matters. Watching these girls grow into women and struggle with life and love and who they want to be, like, it's the whole point of the play.
Right.
So cutting that out, I think, would be really a detriment to it. So I think in one way, like, just the fact that we're going to run the whole thing is really, really awesome. I think that Jill, and I worked with her in 12 Angry Jurors, that was my first time with the Theatre Downstream, and I think that she just has a great eye.
She does. She really does.
For making things feel, even if we are producing something on stage, even if we're obviously acting, it's obviously a show, it's obviously a produced product, or whatever you want to call it, she has a great way of making it seem very real and very natural and not like, oh, I'm at a theater watching a show.
Yeah.
It feels like real people doing real things.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Why do you think people should come see Little Women?
I think that the ideas of people growing and changing and particularly I think for women becoming who they are and growing into people and finding their place and their role in life, I think is a timeless theme. And particularly now, I think obviously since the Civil War era, I think women with rights and with jobs, and I think that the equality of it, I think we've obviously come a long way, but I still think that women sometimes are maybe not always respected the way they should be by society or by men or by anything. And so in a way, I think really the timeless idea of becoming a person and not being constrained by culture or society, but being who you are and who you're made to be, I think is a beautiful thing I think people can learn from. I think particular families with teenagers or with preteens, like they could learn a lot from the show, and it's man, like it's gonna be a good cry.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah.
You'll know when you know.
Oh man, I know. It's good stuff.
And everyone needs a good cry.
Yes.
That's necessary.
It is. Yeah. Okay, well this is our last section, and these are called rapid fires. There is no wrong answers.
Right.
If you could choose the next TTD show, what would it be?
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
All right. What kind of roles do you prefer? Comedy, drama?
Either the really funny guy or the bad guy.
Ooh, bad guy. I'd like to see you play a bad guy.
I want to be the bad guy.
So does John Grant. He really wants to be the bad guy sometime. He wanted to be like juror number 3.
Yeah.
And
he was the hero.
I know, he was the hero. Sorry, you get to be the Jimmy Stewart, Henry Fonda hero.
That's right.
Tell me about a time when you had a really bad day. You don't have to explain the bad day if you don't want, but you had to perform that night. How did you get through it?
Okay, so, and this isn't with theater, but with the ministry job, I had come from a funeral of a friend of mine from high school. Actually, it was the girl I went to prom with my sophomore year, and she passed away suddenly, and so I left the funeral, and it was in the afternoon/evening, and had to go and lead worship with my college ministry group, EKU, and so I got back from that, and immediately had to go into that, was still like in a tie and the whole thing from whatever, and had to like jump right into leading worship, and that was really hard.
How did you do it?
Well, I prayed a lot, and I sang, and then I just got very real with the people I was with and said, hey, this is what I came from. Was very honest and vulnerable with them, because I just didn't know any other way how to deal with it other than to be
authentic,
and said, just, hey, this is where I'm right now, and I'm going to do the best I can. We're all going to do the best we can.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be who I am. I'm not going to try to hide it.
What is the biggest audience you've performed in front of, including your ministry? We know that you sang terribly in front of 400 to 600 people. So
I did. It was so bad.
Was that your biggest audience?
No,
I hope not.
No. So I worked for a camp called Fuge Camps, which is a like entity out of Lifeway Ministries. And so there's like 30, 35, 40 locations all across the United States. But I was at the largest location in North Greenville, at Ridgecrest, North Carolina. I was the MC. So my role was to basically be Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, wow.
For the whole group. But I did it with an English accent, which was a lot of fun.
Oh,
and,
cool.
And there was like anywhere from 12 to 1,700 people there a week. And I'm like gagging it up and like making things flow, and it was a lot of fun. Like I loved that.
That's making me nervous just hearing about it.
It was a lot of people. It was a lot of people.
Ugh. Okay, so something that happens in the play is Amy does some things in her youth that she kind of matures as the play goes on. And is there anything a behavior or habit that you had as a child that you've kind of gotten rid of as you've gotten older?
Maybe the idea would be that I've learned I've grown through something. I probably was really much more of an introvert growing up, and then in ministry, it's really tough to be an introvert, honestly. And so
yeah, I would think so.
You kind of have to learn how to talk to people and how to be in a crowd and work a crowd.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to do that, but that's really not sustainable for a true introvert. You can be an extrovert being an introvert, but it's exhausting. And so now growing up, I feel like that I've learned how to balance both of those things well, and just learn how to be with people, but also not let it suck my soul away. Right. Finding that time to recharge. Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
Yep, that's right.
What is a classic novel that you love or that you've read?
My degree's in literature, so that's tough to say. Like I love reading in general, all
So
reading.
what's the first one that came to your mind? When I said favorite classic book, you said...
there was one.
It's really tough. I don't know that I'd call it like a classic, but my favorite, what I'd call older literature at this point, is I love The Lord of the Rings by all of the stuff by J.R.R. Tolkien, but also probably the Shirley Jacksons' The Haunting of Hill House is a phenomenal read. Like it's really good and super moody and scary and great. Yeah.
I didn't know that was a book.
Yeah.
And then I watched the series, and I hated myself after I found out that it was a book after I watched it.
The show is so good.
Does it do the book justice?
It's different. Like they've taken the framework of the story and they've modernized it into this. They've taken some elements from it, the characters from it, but given them all new. It's very creative what they've done with it. It's probably one of the best things on TV. And beyond that, one of the best things I've never seen a television show or like an episodal series that good ever.
It was really, really
The
good.
acting, the directing, it's the
It's
best.
scary, though.
There are elements of it that are very scary, but it's really more about while the horror element of it is very real. That's kind of the surrounding, the background. The real story is the pain of this family, how dysfunctional and hurt they are from their past, their frustration with each other, their hate for each other, their love for each other, the sorrow of their lives, and them learning to find each other again. The heart of the show is that, but it's in the backdrop of a romantic gothic horror kind of feel.
And some parts of it are very ambiguous. Like, if you like that kind of thing,
Oh yes.
Yeah.
If you don't like scary stuff, then I wouldn't recommend it. But like, if you can deal with it, like, it is a killer. It's so good, man.
Killer.
Yeah. Bazinga.
Okay. In the show, Jo wants to move to New York because she's looking for a new beginning. I think I'm remembering correctly. She says to Marmee that she wants to just kind of start over.
She needs something new,
Something new.
particularly after Laurie.
Yes,
Yep.
after the Laurie debacle. Is there any new beginning in your life that you're most looking forward to?
Well, life is about new beginnings. Like, really, in some ways, and this is going to sound so trite, but it's not. I think that every day is a chance for something new, a new beginning. Some people know I struggle with depression pretty regularly, and I had a real bad spell a couple years ago where I was pretty lost. And from that, I think I've learning to live with life, being content in who I am, and find things to find joy, and find things that are new, find things that I can grow from and grow into. And I think that really life is very much about that. Like, and so every day, my job, my friends, my family, like, is a chance for something new. Instead of letting the past speak for myself and living at that, but instead of letting my past define me, like choosing to say what my life has been about, what my past has been, what my struggles have been about, and growing from that, I think is, if that makes any sense.
It does. And I would think that would probably be another thing that is maybe misunderstood about people in the ministry, that you never have a sad day. Because that doesn't mean that you're perfect or that you're not ever feeling that sadness.
I think ministers, there's a real correlation in ministry and depression and even suicide. It really is kind of bad, honestly. The depression rate for ministers is really high because people need you to be perfect, and you kind of absorb people's stuff because you want to help them, but it's kind of like that old phrase, who watches the watchers?
Yeah.
Who ministers to the minister?
Yeah.
And you end up being in a solo place a lot. I think that is maybe even true for people in the theater acting field. Like, I think it's why you see a lot of people in Hollywood burning out and struggling deeply. They're these famous people that are kind of, we idolize them, we put them up there, and so they're there in these places, and it's
you can't sustain it.
No, it's awful. It's hard to be alone and that way all the time, and so I think that it's a danger and something that anyone that does even just regular theater or like theater that are like local community theater, like, I think that you have to be careful and recognize that you need to have your people with you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. What is something from your childhood that you keep close to your heart?
Probably my deep love of all things nerdy, in particular Godzilla. I have like all of the old movies, the old Japanese films from like the 50s and 60s and 70s, and I still watch them. I even have like action figures, like I have like Godzilla and he's breathing fire, and I have Mothra and she's flapping her wings, and I have all of those really geeky.
Did you see the new Godzilla?
I loved it. It's great.
Did you love it?
Now, of course, the human story was a little whatever, but still, Vera.
What
Farmiga,
about that mom? She was terrible.
Oh, I know, but I love her so much though. Like Vera Farmiga, like she like, I'm not even saying her last name right, but like she's like
Farmiga, maybe.
Farmiga, I think it's right. Yeah, she was in the Conjuring series, and she's like, beyond the fact that I think that she's like old world beautiful.
She is very beautiful. Ingrid Bergman pretty. Yeah,
my gosh. But like, even though her, like, I think maybe the writing wasn't great and her character wasn't great, man, she gave it all she had.
She was terrible. She was her not her, like, not Vera, but the character she was playing was a horrible mother. Yeah. She was horrible.
Oh, but it was so great. But no one goes to a Godzilla movie for that.
No, they don't.
I went to watch, the 400-foot giant dinosaur breathing fire. That's why I came for that movie.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's why I went. That's my thing people don't know about me, or maybe they do by now, that I love these monster movies.
That's awesome.
So I know that you are indeed John Brooke, but if you had to identify with a March sister, which March sister do you think that you would most identify with?
That's funny.
Are you an Amy, Beth, Joe, or Meg?
Yeah, it's funny because all four of them are these like caricatures in a way. I'm probably a blend though. Like I'm probably like a little bit of Beth. So like I tend to be very sad and maybe
melancholy,
maybe a little melancholy. But I'm also like there's a part of me that's very much Amy. Like I'm just just a diva, just a big walking diva. Like I love listening to her the whole play, the whole thing to the very end. Everything, every line is somehow gets brought back to, I'm so pretty. Oh, the ribbon in my hair. Oh, those girls aren't as pretty as me.
Amy. Oh, Amy. Oh, man. Okay, here is our final 3 questions, and we've asked this of everybody.
Awesome.
What is your best advice for other actors?
Don't be afraid to try. You might not get the role you want. You might not ever get the role you want. But if you're willing to try and put yourself out there, it may not be the role you want, but it might be the role that you love.
Yeah, that's good.
It might end up being the role that you absolutely love. So don't be afraid to try.
What would you tell the 10-year-old version of yourself?
It only gets worse from here, kid.
Mr. Bluebird is the peak.
No, I would say that it really does get a lot better from here.
Yeah.
There's so much more ahead of you than behind you.
If you knew you could do something without fail, what would you choose to do?
I would be a wizard. Yeah. No. Yeah, I would be a wizard. But yeah, I'd probably I would love to do big theater. I would love to do something huge and awesome. You
Broadway?
know? Yeah, it would be sick. I'd love that. I would also love to be at least 5 inches taller. Thank you. That would also be necessary for me to do Broadway theater because I'm way too short. I'm pretty sure the only reason, when you see the show, we're all so short.
You are Little Women and Little Men.
The whole cast, except for Brian, we're all so short. It's a really little cast.
That's funny.
That's what this season of Getting Real is. Sitting down with the little cast of Little Women.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you would like to say?
You should definitely come see Little Women. It will make you laugh a great deal. There's one part in particular that you'll be weeping. You definitely should bring a Kleenex box. It will warm your soul in the best way. You should definitely come.
Well, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Special thanks to Brandon Rose. Next week, we'll hear from Joy Willoughby, who plays Aunt March in Little Women. Very special thanks to the sponsors of Little Women, Mary Bryant, Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance, and the bookstore at the Berry Center. This episode of Getting Real was executive produced, edited, and written by me, Ashley Raymer-Brown.
It was produced and co-written by me, Bree Highshoe.
Music was provided by Final Cut Pro, and artwork was created by Ashley Raymer-Brown. That's me. And Bree Highshoe.
That's me.
Getting Real is a separate entity from the Theatre Downstream. The thoughts and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of the Theatre Downstream or the sponsors of their shows. Thanks for listening.
Hi, kitty.
Scotty's here.
Hey, baby. Just coming to say hi.
Yes. To breathe.
Yeah.
That was a really good answer, by the way.
Cool. And he... Sorry. Laughing at the cat. I know, buddy.
He's like... This is why he's called Snotty Scotty.
Uh-huh.